first video we recorded is about the importance of financial goal setting, which I think is really important. At Cordon, we often talk about the fact that we see money as a means to an end. Money is a tool that can be used to achieve certain objectives. It can be used to achieve goals. So when you save money and you invest money, it's important to have clarity about what you actually want to use it for. It'll make you that much more effective in those processes of investing, of saving, and eventually using what you saved, right? And what you've accumulated. Today, what I want to talk about is this idea of paying yourself first. And what I want to do is three things. Number one, I want to talk about what I mean by that. So what does it mean to pay yourself first? Number two, I want to talk about why we do it, why we tell people to do it, why I do it myself, why I think others should do it. And then number three, I want to talk about why it's so important to start now. Why is it important to get a leg up on this idea of paying yourself first? What do I mean by paying yourself first? What I mean is prioritizing your financial future. You are just as important as the cell phone bill you pay, as the cable bill you pay, as the mortgage payment you make. And it's important to prioritize that accordingly, right? There's no reason to put those other things ahead of you. So why not make it a priority to save for yourself? You can think about this as saving for retirement. You can think about it as saving to be independently wealthy, saving to be more financially flexible. Whatever it is, it's a prioritization of yourself over the other needs for your finances that I'm talking about here. So when I say that, when I share that concept of paying yourself first, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, let's look at that second question. Why do it? Why pay yourself first? Why save? Why invest? Why take these steps in order to take care of your future self, and why do it now? And the big reason for this is inflation, right? A dollar today becomes worth less over time, or at least historically has become worth less over time. A great example of this is just looking at what 14 cents bought you in milk in 1918, 50 years later in 1968, and then 50 years later in 2018. That 14 cents, it bought you a quart of milk in 1918. It bought you 2 cups of milk in 1968. And then it only buys you 12 tablespoons of milk today. So you can see over time how the value erodes, right? So what's really important is to take care of your future financial self is to save now and invest now in a way that at least accounts for, if not tries to beat, inflation, right? At least it tries to account for the fact that those dollars are going to become worth less over time. So as you prioritize your future self, it's really important to think about why you're doing it. We've talked about what I mean by paying yourself first. We've talked about why we do it. The last thing I want to talk about is why is it so important to start now? And really the reason it's so important to start now is because of the value in starting now, right? And it comes down to this idea of compounding growth. The sooner you start saving and the sooner you start investing, the more you're going to benefit from compounding growth. The more you're going to benefit long-term from that accumulation, and the sooner you're going to have the financial flexibility to do the things that you want to do. I think a great way to look at this is just the growth of a dollar in investments over time. And it's really exhibited by this chart here. If you look at the growth of a dollar, if it just grew at the rate of inflation, that dollar from 1926 to present becomes $14. That's that same growth, right? That causes that 14 cents to only buy you 12 tablespoons of milk today, right? So it's that process in reverse. So that dollar, if it's growing at the rate of inflation, becomes $14. If it's invested in U.S. government bonds, that dollar becomes $142 over time. So it well outpaces inflation, right? But you can see that the power of that compounding growth, right? And then if that same dollar was invested in U.S. Big companies, right? That's U.S. large cap stocks. That dollar becomes over $7,000. Small cap stocks, so the smaller segment of the U.S. market, it becomes over $20,000. So that is the reason. That's $1 with investment growth over time compounding, right? So it's growing in and of itself. And when it has that amount of time to grow, it's significant. So if you're, when you're young, right, you're talking about long time horizons. You're talking about 40, 50 years that you could be saving and having funds invested in compounding. So the sooner that you get started on this piece of it, the sooner that you prioritize your future self now, the more that's going to pay off. So again, I encourage you to go back and watch this first video we created on setting your financial goals. But then after you've done that and thinking through that clarity, make it a priority to pay yourself and take care of your future financial self now.